Hey, I hope you're well. Kind of speedrunning an intro here. My second ever video was a review on NieR Automata, which is in my top 3 favourite games, and during that video I said I'd also make a review for the prequel NieR Replicant. But unlike most of my other reviews on this channel, I can't exactly give it an initial review considering I've already put 90 plus hours into this game, I've collected every achievement available, I've experienced every ending and have been left perpetually devastated every single time. So I thought instead of doing a nice thorough review, I'd do a bit of a quicker review just because I guess I already know what I want to discuss in this review. In case you're not familiar with the NieR franchise, I'll give a quick run through of its history. NieR Gestalt released back in 2010 on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Immediately just from this picture alone, you can tell it's different from what's being shown in the background. The story is slightly different from the later re-released NieR Replicant, as the protagonist is older and the relationship with, well, his daughter Yona is different from the re-released NieR Replicant version 1.22. I'm not saying the rest of the numbers, which released back in April 2021. This version of the game twists the dynamic mentioned earlier, as you're now the brother of Yona instead of the father. Immediately from this change alone, it changes the tone of the game. I can't comment on the 2010 version because I never played it, but from what I've experienced playing Replicant, the change works brilliantly. If you've played both, please let me know how you found the changes, as I do think it's very interesting to make such a fundamental change. In between this, NieR Automata released in 2017 and is the sequel to NieR Gestalt or Replicant, whatever we want to go with. I won't go too in detail about this game as I've already reviewed it, which you can check out in the top corner now or in the description if you want to get through this video first. But anyway, let's focus on NieR Replicant for now, and from this point onwards I'll only be talking exclusively about the re-release just because I can't compare my experience with the original seeing as I haven't played it. Immediately looking at the story, man, it just does not let up for a single moment. It's more of a sad story, one that deals with loss, hopelessness and a lot of challenge. And it's not in bits and pieces, it's a constant. It's a harsh reminder that everything is momentary. It's almost a testament to our determination to keep on going even when there's no finish line in sight. One of the main things I noticed throughout the story is that there's always a repeating theme of wanting to be free, to live and be human, whatever that means, and you realise that it applies to near enough everyone and everything. The world is so well built to show the struggles of these towns and of such an extensive culture that makes each area stand out further, and what I thought was excellent was that each playthrough expands on the story. There are new parts added to each story that add so much depth, and you understand the enemies, their placement and their motivation. When I said it's a sad story that doesn't let up, that's also further expanded on the more you play. Some of the bosses' backstories are incredibly sad, and you really begin to further explore the moral greyness and weigh whether the choices you made are the right ones, all while conflicting with nihilism and existentialism, because they both start with the idea that life lacks an objective meaning, but both diverge quite a bit from there. But I'll avoid going down the massive philosophy hole that this game explores, because I think that would be an entire video on its own. The characters in the game are unique. They feel sort of familiar, but not in the traditional sense. They feel familiar because of their emotions. Kaine, for example, is very cold and aggressive, almost directly being a product of her traumatic upbringing, and yet beneath that is an incredibly vulnerable person who carries a lot of self-hatred and resentment about her past. I mean, you could also look at Emil, who despite his youth is a very conflicted character, one who has incredible power and instead of abusing it, hates the power he has because of the negative impact it has, essentially making him feel guilty. His story kind of works towards self-acceptance and working hard to find a place in the world that has continually betrayed him and abused him. I mean, even just these two characters alone cover such a wide range of emotions and themes. Now, expand this across all main characters you work alongside in the game, and it solidifies the cast as incredibly expansive and complex. I don't want to talk more about the characters because I think it would bleed into spoiling the story, which I want to avoid. The combat admittedly is dated. I won't deny that it's not the most expansive or elaborate, but I almost feel like it doesn't need to be. The focus of the game is telling a story about struggle and hardship, and I felt like although it's not perfect, the combat and its choices actually worked quite well to reflect that. It was never going to be expansive as NieR Automata's, but it doesn't need to. I feel like it partially adds some realism. In a society where humanity is struggling with more and more people dying and becoming sick, there are less and less people that are able to fight, and although our main character is definitely a good fighter, they're not like Kaine, they're more human with their combat and moves, which will make it seem more restrictive, but I think it works overall to complement the story. What I do think is a little bit of a miss is the magic. It's a good thing to have and works quite well, but I feel like for it being described as incredibly powerful, I feel like it lacks that final bit of power that really makes it feel like a difference maker. There is a little bit of diversity in the attacks you can do, but when I see it in cutscenes doing all of these really strong actions and that doesn't carry over into the combat, I do feel like it's somewhat of a missed opportunity. Thankfully, I think the game makes up for that with the weapons, as they're quite diverse in both design and playstyle. The weapons work quite well being flexible to how you want to play. I don't know if that makes sense, like they're not restrictive in any way. You don't really have to play a certain way if you use a spear or a greatsword over just like a normal sword. And actually, using the weapons feels good. Like the damage scaling with upgrading is good. I think if you pair it well enough with the magic, then it works wonderfully. I think the actual world is really good. It definitely works very well to show humanity's struggles and kind of how nature is taken back over as the human population continues to get lower. There is a bit of diversity in the immediate environment, and I think it greatly changes the more you head towards the towns and cities, as I think it becomes more representative of the cultures. It may sound a bit contradictory, but although the environments are good, they feel a little empty. Again, from a narrative and contextual perspective, it makes sense and works perfectly, but from a gameplay perspective, I feel like you're not really there to take in the environment. It's more so just moving through the area to kill enemies or just move on to the next place to continue your quest or the story. Speaking of the quests, I think they work quite well to engage the player. Interacting with NPCs and characters improves the world building by creating that culture and breathing life into it. The actual quests are relatively simple. Some take a bit of time to work through or can be a little tedious, but I don't think it's anything unbearable. The music in the game is honestly flawless, easily one of the best in video game history. When I was briefly looking into NieR Gestalt for the start of the video, there's quite a bit of discussion about how the soundtrack doesn't hit as hard compared to the original. Again, this isn't something I can compare, but from what I've experienced with the re-release, I thought it was fantastic. It complements the game beautifully. Music that accompanies the towns is great, diverse, and memorable. The art direction for the re-release also works incredibly well. It feels classic. There's no part of it that made me question the choice of the designs, whether that's the characters, environments, or enemies. I think it all works well. And I guess to support that, the performance was great. I didn't experience any issues with the performance, which helps solidify the art direction for me and allows you to be more engrossed in the game. If I had to be critical, there is a little part of the game where the audio mix is a little awkward, but outside of that, there aren't any real issues. The voice acting as well is quite good. I think this part is one of my favorites.
Goddamn no good bullshit bastard! Open the fuck up already! Ugh!
I could have a whole highlight reel with just Kaine and Vice clips that give that same energy. But yeah, I mean, nothing sounds harsh or rough. I think performances complement the designs of the characters and the performance of the game flawlessly. Difficulty wise, I think it's relatively fine. The bosses are mechanically unique, but don't really offer much challenge. Even on the hard difficulty, it just seems to increase the health pool, which is fine really. Okay, I did say I was doing a quicker video, so I'm going to speedrun an outro here. I love the NieR games. That's my closing thoughts. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about stuff I didn't cover, let me know and I'll answer them in the comments. Have a good day. Bye.
Vice? Why's that lady in her underwear?